Happy early morning, sir. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Uh,
Awesome.
you know,
I
I'm
believe
I'm I'm
you're
probably
coming off a week of solitude, am I right?
yeah, that's right. I was about to say I'm probably not much more awake than you are because I went to sleep at a little bit after 2 last night.
All right. So for context, it's I think 9:20 your time. Am I getting
Yeah,
that right?
yeah. So I've
And
been awake for I got 5 hours sleep.
hmm, I got maybe five and a half. So we're working on comparable tanks, I'll say.
Bam!
Bam, indeed. Okay, so I think this week we're going to talk about our gaming to-do lists for the year.
Look at you, Mr.
Uh,
Stay on topic.
well, we've been failing quite much at that
Yeah,
lately, so
yeah.
yes. So I actually have mine sitting in front of me
Nice.
and can talk at it readily.
Yeah, it
Um,
seemed like something that was interesting for me to cover because we've both mentioned the games that we played last year and how we have a huge backlog. So I'm curious how you chose your games and what they are.
yeah, so well, let me preface this a little bit. I suspect our lists will work differently.
Hmm.
I'm thinking yours. Well, I could be wrong. You kind of have like a what I want to do this year kind of list.
Yeah,
Am I right? Yeah.
yeah.
So I just have a giant list. There's no way I'm going to play all of these this year. It's kind of like
Yours is just
the
every game you own.
well, in a way, yes. That's the last item on the list is like everything else you own in a way. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But I basically just so I have two lists. I keep like the uh uh so there's the main list and there's the on the go list. And the main list is like games that are either console or computer, and are, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Important enough to me that I wouldn't want to play them on like my little laptop. It has to be on like my nice TV or something.
Right.
And the reason there's two lists is because it's quite hard to make that time to like set up my nice TV and kind of get that hour or two to myself and play those
Mm.
games. So the other list is like play these anytime. You're on the go. You're whatever. It's like lunch at work. You can play it on your crappy laptop for
Yeah.
like 30 minutes. Who cares? Um, and so, as could be expected, I make much better progress through that list. Although ideally, I'd always be playing one game. There's always like I'm playing a game on both lists, and so depending on the context, like if I am at home and I feel like playing games, I'll play it on the big list. And if
Mm.
I'm on the go, or if I just have a little spot in my schedule where I can make some time, I'll play the game on my other list. So, that said, I'm looking at these lists. The other thing that's going to be different from mine and yours is it's all older games. There's a few newer games. There's a few newer games. And it's very uh, catch-uppy, I
Yeah.
guess. Like it's a lot of games that have been either popular or maybe influential over the past couple years that I never got a chance to go to. So it's those kind of interspersed with games that I wanted to play since I was a kid or haven't played in a long time or that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So,
uh,
so I mean, to be fair, while I do have games that are newer, I think the oldest game on my list is from '81,
81. What
yeah,
game is that?
Ultima.
I I have Ultima as eighth on my list, which is hilarious.
Nice.
Um, I at one point decided I would beat all the Ultima games, and the first Ultima, what is it? A Calibeth? Have you heard of that?
Uh, I haven't. I honestly don't know much about the series.
Okay. Well, a Calibeth is by most counts Ultima Zero. It's
Okay.
like the creator of Ultima basically sat down and made a Calibeth and then Ultima and then Ultima 2, 3, 4, or whatever.
Right.
And if you play it, it's just another game in the Ultima series. It's just the same stuff. I can tell you, you're gonna, and myself will have a hard time getting through those early Ultimas, or if you're gonna play Ultima 1, it's like really for me.
Yeah.
But I
I've
did.
I've never played one ever.
Okay.
But I've always been into RPGs, and it feels like that's kind of one of the originators, at least for Western RPGs. So,
Yeah. Well, so so a Calibeth I've finished, because I decided at one point to go through the Ultimas, and I just couldn't, like, I pushed Ultima 1 far into the future because the Calibeth was so difficult. But Calibeth was actually at one point a free download as a phone game,
Right.
so I was able to just kind of play it like, on the toilet kind of thing. So sure, it was dated and difficult and kind of boring, but I never had to like sit down and make the time to play it, so I was able to finish it. So anyway, my list, I guess, I don't know where to start. The list has 202 entries.
So how do you organize that list? Is it sort of like a priority of what's interesting to you, or?
Kind of. So it's kind of like the same way as how I organize like a films I want to watch list in a way. It's like maybe if there's a series I want to play, if I decided I wanted to play, let me see, like Metroid Prime is in here. So like maybe I want to play 1, 2, and 3 or something. I'll kind of space them out. So if I already had, let's say I already had a list and there's 100 on it, and I decided I want to play Metroid Prime, the first thing that goes through my mind is like, compared to these other games at the top, how much do I want to play this?
Right.
And so if it's not that important to me, I might start putting them in there, starting at like 50 or something. Who cares? If it is a game that makes it into the top, even then, if it's like a series, I'll space them out. Like I won't just put 1, 2, 3 as like my top 3 games I'm gonna play. I'll put like 1, and then maybe 10 or 20 later I'll put 2. And it's weird maybe, but I don't know. It's just the way I think. I like to jump between different game series. I don't want to sit down and play through an entire series next. For the most part, the games at the top of my list are like, it's very rare that something gets stuck at the top of the list. It works more like a queue where things come in from the bottom, because otherwise I'll just never get into these games at the top. And those games tend to, these games at the top tend to be more, I guess either important in the sense that, for me, they just seem like a major title that I haven't gotten to, or something I just really want to play because I don't know, maybe I've tried it and it was fun, or maybe I've played through most of it and I just want to finish it, or something maybe that I see as kind of important, if that makes sense. Like I find myself increasingly, I guess kind of, what would you call it? Almost like Galapagos Island kind of thing happening, where it's like I like my set of games, then when I go to like a game event where I talk to other people, everyone's playing all this other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. So I'm just trying to kind of get back into playing the same things as other people. So I'll put like some of the bigger titles there, just to, even if I'm not that interested, I want to kind of sit down, and I suspect if I sit down and play some of these games, I'll like them. So
I'm in my head, I'm really trying to make a connection between Galapagos tortoises and what you just said.
Is it working?
No.
In the sense that I don't want to be my own like island of games no one's heard of. That.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's my group of games, and then everyone else does their thing, and I'm kind of out on my own, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I've never heard the Galapagos used as an analogy before.
I've heard it used as an analogy for technology. Like certain companies are kind of making their own standards, and like it's like no one else is playing with them.
Okay.
Like, kind of like how Sony used to always make like mini discs and like I forget what else, but like they kind of went their way, and while the market went towards more standard things.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, let me just kind of throw out my top few here. Obviously, right now I'm playing Gargoyle's Quest, which is obviously a portable game on the original Game Boy, but it's I'm playing it on Super Game Boy. I just can't.
Yeah, you were saying last time.
Play it on the actual Game Boy. So I'm treating it as a sit down and play game. Next is I'm trying to think what it's called. Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yeah.
Or rather, Ghosts and Goblins. Have you played this game?
Is that the original or the sequel?
The original. I think it's on the NES Mini.
Yeah. So I tried. I think I tried it originally on the Nintendo, but yeah, I think I tried it a week or more ago just to briefly show Andrea the different games that are on the mini Famicom.
Uh,
And so I basically got like 30 seconds in and then lost all my lives. So
it's infamously difficult. Yeah. Now,
yeah.
I have two separate friends. One has beaten this game, and one has beaten Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
So when you
And
say
so,
beat, did he like get the proper ending by beating it twice
yeah,
or?
like beat it twice to get the proper ending. Yes. And so
Okay.
I don't know. I actually like these kind of like ultra challenging games. Like sitting down and playing them and finishing them is it's fun with a friend as a social thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a good friend that's good at games, and we would blast through this kind of title. Like I might have mentioned, we'd beaten Adventure Island
Yeah.
together. Which if you play that game, like the opening levels, it's like okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But like the
Yeah.
last two or three stages are just like, oh my god, like ripping out your hair, brutal, just crazy. So anyway, that's on the list. Next, did you ever play Earthbound?
That's another one that I've played just the opening, and then for some reason or another, I just never got around to going further than that.
Yeah, I have actually, incredibly maybe, finished the very first one. Like Earthbound is actually a sequel to a
Right.
original
Mother.
Nintendo game. Yeah, yeah. And Mother was again one of the games that hasn't aged well and was quite difficult for me to get through. But I don't know, it started to get funner. And anyway, I've played about a third of the sequel of Earthbound, and my Super Nintendo erased my game, and I was quite upset about this. So
Um,
that was the game I was playing for a while there, but I just got pissed when that happened and pushed it down the list. Two items.
I used to have lost saves all the time on the original PlayStation, but I don't think I ever had it on the Super Nintendo.
My Super Nintendo, or I guess I should say Super Nintendos in general, were like the most reliable systems forever. Like Nintendo always had the blinking screen, and if you just couldn't stand
Yeah.
it and you're getting frustrated, you switch to Super Nintendo and have no problems. I've found as Super Nintendos have aged, maybe around now-ish, like when everything's about 25, I don't know what it is, but I've found like I have multiple Super Nintendos. Like I'm looking behind me, I know it's ridiculous, but I have four here,
Yeah.
and like all of them are failing, like giving me black screens and just um and maybe it's the games, I don't know, but it's certainly when a Super Nintendo fails, it just doesn't do anything. You hit the on
Right.
button and it just sits there, and when you've had that happen, you have to kind of grit your teeth because there's a chance it just erased your game. It
Yeah.
sucks. Yeah, that actually motivated me. I wanted to buy one of those flash carts. I don't know if you know anything about them. It's like the one in particular that I was interested in is called SD to SNES. You
Okay.
just basically you could load game ROMs onto an SD card and then just play them.
And do they have any sort of like save state feature built into them, or?
Yes, they do. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Certain games don't work. I forget. I think that the Super FX chip is beyond its capabilities, and then some of the other expansion chips don't work. I
Right.
have most of those games. Really, I don't know what the legality situation is. It's probably a classic, like ROMs are illegal. But I mean,
Yeah.
where the device itself is not illegal because you could just play homebrew games and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think of that. I mean, I have all these games physically anyway, and no one's making money off me, so
Yeah.
it would be to avoid my saves being erased more than like just to pirate things. So I don't know. That made me look into that. I don't actually currently have it. I'm very slowly going through this list. I promise you will get to talk. I'll just go through my top five on both lists here. Number four. So I mean, it's funny because like Gargoyle's Quest is gonna take like another 1 hour. I'm already almost finished it.
Mm.
Um, Ghosts and Goblins is a sit down for one night and beat game. I mean, or just never beat because it's impossible. Earthbound is like an RPG, whatever, 40 hours. Next game is original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Have you beaten this game?
No, I did not beat it.
I have never beaten it, and I just want to finish it. I just want to go through it. That original,
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love the
that one.
music in that one.
The music's classic. It's one of those games that everyone loves or hates, and I
Yeah.
kind of sit on the fence. I can play it. It's fun, whatever. But it is a kind of a terrible game. And
It's, I
It's very
remember
poor use of the license too.
I remember a lot of people getting mad about the dam level in that, where you've got to like disable bombs or something.
Yeah.
And I don't remember having a problem with that. I remember getting by that no problem. But I remember there was other levels later on where you're doing the platforming that I don't know. I didn't really find it fun.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I kind of like the concept of the game, like the
Yeah,
way it's made. It feels like an attempt at something that had a lot of potential to be really fun, and it
yeah,
just didn't. I feel like the game design itself, for the most part, is okay, except the levels, like the way you can switch between your characters, and the way there's an overworld and like a, platforming stage kind of mix up thing going on. Like that worked to me really well.
yeah,
It's just you get into a level and it would just be this boring, like long hallway you walk down. Like I
yeah.
don't know.
And
Like
the problem that I remember having with it is that like with Ninja Gaiden, that's a frustrating game because you back up a little bit and then you go forward and suddenly the guy you've just killed is there again.
yeah,
But because you're constantly supposed to be moving from left to right, that didn't feel like so much of a problem to me. But feel like with Ninja Turtles, you had them respawning, but you're supposed to backtrack through some of the areas, so they would just be there
yeah, yeah.
after you killed them, and so you'd like go
Yes.
into a building to get health, and then you'd come out with less health than you went into.
Yes, there was various frustrating aspects of the game, and just the way that like hit detection worked, or
Yeah,
even like I don't know what, like platform detection. Like you jump up and you'd think you could jump onto a platform, and your character would seemingly, like his sprite would be above the platform,
yeah.
and logically he should be able to get on it, but just the hit detection was such where you would just fall down, and it would be like ah.
I
Yeah,
remember
there's a lot of things with this game that
I
are
remember watching I don't know, Mike and James play that, or
oh
Angry
yeah.
Video Game Nerd or something, but there was one jump that James had always had difficulty playing or
And
making,
they made that
and
video where they just went and addressed that jump specifically, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was one part to it where they showed that you could jump higher if you're jumping to the left of the screen than if you're jumping to the right of the screen.
That's actually really funny. Well, I'll have my own insights as of getting through the three games above this one, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so fifth on this list, I put Titanfall. It's
The original or the second one?
the first one. Yeah, I play everything in order. It's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
weird compulsive thing. So that's at least for me, I'll call that like brand new game out of nowhere, but just to kind of keep me, what's the word? I guess connected.
It's a
Plus, it
palate
seems kind
cleanser.
of fun. I don't know. Have you played it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
But I
Xbox
started.
One only, I think.
Is it?
I think if you can put up with a little bit of typing, like I mean, I'm quite well versed in older games, but not newer games to the point where it's funny.
I don't
So
know.
I don't actually know. Platform: Windows, Xbox One, Xbox 360. I think it's the sequel
Right.
that's Xbox One only.
No, you can get Titanfall 2 on PC.
Really? Okay.
Let me double check that because I work at the company that makes that publishes it, so I should get my facts straight.
Going to Wikipedia, Windows, PlayStation 4, Xbox One.
Right.
Yeah.
It was taking
So
me forever to remember how to get to Origin on my computer. Um, yeah, I know the second one's been really well received through the press and stuff, so I'm
Yeah.
interested at some point in checking it out, but
It's not
I-
super high in here.
yeah,
List.
not just yet.
Yeah, yeah. Let me cheat a little. I said I was going to do the top five. I'll throw in number six just because. Number six actually is Ultima One. I was thinking. I don't know if you've played the Nintendo Ultimas.
I don't think so.
So I will say that they are significantly different remakes of the PC ones, but they're a lot more fun. They're interesting to me. It's cool how they work actually. It has like a I don't know what you call it, like almost a fog of war kind of thing happening, where if your characters are coming around a corner and they can't actually see past the corner. It'll just be black on the screen.
Right.
And then when you get to that corner, it'll fill in what you can see based on the line of sight of your characters. And then otherwise, it's like a standard kind of 80s overhead, almost Japanese style RPG.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of resembles Dragon Quest.
Dragon Quest with those line of sight blockers that fog
Yeah,
of war
yeah.
going on. Yeah.
I'm looking at a speed run right now on YouTube.
Okay. So I was thinking actually of playing the Famicom one. I don't know if that counts, but anyway. So let me fly through my other list. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is top of the Play Anywhere list. Then Metroid Zero Mission. Then I'm trying to think of the English name. There's a mole game. I don't know if you've heard of. I know this. Let me look it up. It is called. Maybe there's no English name. Mole Mania, I guess. Okay. Have you heard of this game?
No, I don't think so.
So it's one of Shigeru Miyamoto's early games. I remember looking through a list of his games and noting that I'd played or finished virtually everything except this one, which I hadn't heard of at some point in the distant past. So I bought it, and it's just a cool little a puzzle game. Like you play as a mole. You go through stages and stages, and you just have to kind of finish puzzles. It reminds me of Adventures of Lolo, if you've played that.
Okay, yeah, that game was awesome.
Yeah. So it's that kind of thing, and it's pretty fun. I beat about half of it, and I just figured I'd go and finish it. I'm all about, if you notice, I'm all about like. So my list here is a lot of them are like kind of holes in my experience. Like maybe I've played through some series, except I missed this one game, or this game came out around then and everyone else was playing it. Or like this other game is, the newest one in a series I like. I like to put those games on my list. So if I had gone through my enormous list here, there's a lot of those. And next on the portable list is Rockman World, or I guess Mega Man World, or I forget what they're called here. Maybe just Mega Man, the Game Boy version.
I haven't heard of Mega Man World. So is that Game Boy Advance or?
No, just Game Boy. Original Game Boy had a bunch of Mega Man games. A lot of them were so like 1 and 2. I think they started out where they were basically dumbed down versions of the NES, like mainline ones. Then they kind of split and started to be their own thing and started to really be just unique Mega Man games that the whole world completely ignored. So at some point I wouldn't mind going through all of those. So that's the fourth one on the list, and the fifth one is the third Phoenix Wright game. I played 1 and 2, and pretty straightforward, kind of just what they call in Japan adventure games.
Right.
Very little adventure really, but that genre of game pretty typical for it. But I don't know, I enjoyed the first two a lot, so go through number 3.
One thing I'm curious about is when you say like Rockman World 2 or Phoenix Wright, how many of your games do you play in English versus in a different language?
So this might sound silly, but I mean, especially since I've gone through the extreme effort of learning this language, I typically, if I spoke every language in the entire world, I think anytime I indulge in any sort of art or anything, like if I was to read a novel or watch a movie or play a game, I'd always play or watch or partake in the original
version.
Yeah, so if I spoke Swedish and there was a Swedish movie, I'd love to, watch it in Swedish. You get all those original, nuances and everything, and you get what the original creator intended. So since I did put all the effort into Japanese, I will always play a game in Japanese if it's a Japanese game.
Okay.
I just do that. So like for example, Titanfall, I wouldn't like necessarily switch that to Japanese or anything, but for a lot of these older ones, I typically do. It's not like I'm crazy about it. I was playing Metroid Fusion. I actually the Japanese version cost twice as much, so I just bought the English one. Not a big deal, whatever, but typically. Plus, I tend to own most of them in Japanese, so Famicom games are typically easier to find and or cheaper than their American counterparts.
Yeah. Rad. Are you still playing Gargoyle and Tactics Advance?
I am. So I think I mentioned last time I'm playing through. The Super Nintendo Zelda Link to the Past with my wife.
Yeah.
And this ties in with what I was saying earlier about how my Super Nintendo is becoming finicky. So since I'm playing Gargoyle's Quest on the Super Game Boy, I need to use that Super Nintendo, but I don't want to pull Link's Awake. I don't want to pull Link to the Past out
Right.
because I don't want to erase her game. So
Right.
Link to the Past is going to sit in there until we are done, meaning that Gargoyle's Quest is on pause, even though I've wanted to play it
For
a few
potentially years.
well, we'll see. But I am making good progress through Final Fantasy Tactics Advance,
Right.
which I'm kind of enjoying more in a way and less in a way. I guess I've come to peace with the whole like kids sucked into the storybook thing, and a lot of the things I didn't like. Really, it's a long game, and there's not that much variety. Like I've just done battle after battle after battle. Like that's where it's starting to get a little bit like, but yeah, I'm not like the reasons everyone gives for disliking this game have kind of long since become non-issues to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so for me with my list, I've got 3 lists, I guess.
Yeah, I find it
as
fascinating that you say like this is what I'm going to play this year, because
Yeah.
I would never have enough confidence to do that that my schedule would allow me such.
Well, that stems more from just having in the past kept track of what I've played each year.
Yeah.
And now that I've kind of got a baseline that I understand that I can get around 20 games a year, then it's like, okay, well, which 20 am I going to play?
Yeah, that's fair.
Um,
Yeah, and I believe you're always on, for example, like how many hours and all that,
Yeah.
kind of gauging how long games are. So it may be weird, but I don't want to know, right? Like I don't know how long Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is. We talked about it already. You spoiled it, right? But
Yeah.
not a biggie. But I kind of want to discover that, or like as if it was my first time. Like if
Right.
it is short, I'll be like, wow, that was short. So that again, that's maybe why my list can't work that way, because I
Right.
don't want to know how long stuff is. So
Yeah, so I guess that's one way that we differ is I like to have a ballpark figure of how much investment it's going to take, like,
it makes sense. It makes sense.
and that way I can kind of go into it knowing how much time I can make use out of a play session. Like if I know that I'm only going to get a couple hours in a week, then maybe I'll try to pick a game that's only going to take a couple hours to beat. Because then I could actually play through the entire game in the span of a week.
Got it. So if you were like 16 and it was summer and you didn't care and had all the time in the world, would you still have this system, or would it be more like,
No,
I'll just play games?
I totally didn't have that system until recently.
So it is something you do to make it work with your adult life.
Yeah. When I was a
Yeah.
kid, I would get Final Fantasy 3, and that was the only game that I had access to, so I would play that for the entire year. Right?
Awesome.
But now it's gotten to a point where there are a lot of games that I've played that I really love, but I currently own, how many is it here? I've got 272 games that I've never played before, that I've bought and spent money on. Well, I guess I haven't spent money on all of them. I've gotten a good portion of them for free. But I feel like as much as I love a lot of the games that I've played in the past, like Final Fantasy 3, for example, I want to severely prioritize stuff that I've never played before.
Fair.
So
Yeah, my list actually, I have no games that I've beaten before on my to-do list. Like there's no games to re-beat, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. I do have, what is it? I do have 2 games on my list right now that I played as a kid that I want to replay, just because I'm looking for inspiration out of those games, and I kind of want to study them.
Can I ask what they are?
Yeah. The first one is Shining Force.
Okay, yeah. Awesome.
And the second is Destiny of an Emperor.
Okay. Awesome.
So those were both 2 RPGs that I loved as a kid, and I want to like go back and try to figure out what about them I loved.
Awesome. Shining Force is number 70 on my list.
Nice.
I know.
So yeah, like I've got my massive 272 game list, and I've actually gotten that broken up into charts. We've discussed this before, so I won't get
Yeah, we
too deep into
it's
it. But
amusing to me that you basically you take every game you own and
yeah,
that's your list, right? In
yeah,
some order, right? Yeah. That would be a that would be a project for me to make something similar. I mean,
yeah.
see my
I mean,
physical collection is
I built it up over time. It wasn't just
yeah,
like sit down in one day and do it all.
of course.
um, but so for like in 2009, there's currently 4 games that I bought that year that I've still not played through.
Mm.
And that's roughly $35 worth of games that I paid money for and didn't play that year. And
Okay.
then in 2010, I've got 39 games, and it's actually only $33 worth that I spent.
Awesome.
So I've got like these lists, and it's by year, and that's like every game that I own. I just have that stored there, and so at the beginning of the year, when I'm deciding what games can I play this year,
Mm.
I look at 2 different things, I guess, or 3 different things. The first one is I try to split it out from the years that I purchased it, uh,
Okay.
and because I
Do you
kind of
prioritize older stuff just so it doesn't kind of fall into the void?
no, I actually spread it out pretty
Okay.
evenly.
Okay.
Like I've got about roughly 2 games per year here. I do have,
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, the
That's interesting to me because I pay more attention to kind of like when the game came out. Like if I was doing something
yeah,
similar, I might have like a really old game, like kind of like a '90s game, a 2000s versus like the year I bought it
yeah,
necessarily.
and so the reason I kind of do that is because I feel like many years I live in a completely different city or a completely different country or whatever, and I feel like my overall state of emotions and stuff tend to be different.
Sure.
And
Okay.
so when I look back at the games that I bought at that time, it kind of tells me a story about who I was at that time. And so
Interesting.
in one way, by playing them in that order, I'm kind of like getting to reflect on my personal past.
Okay.
Um,
Whoa, that's very
yeah.
that's deeper than anything I do with my video games I want to play list for sure.
Yeah. So I have it prioritized where I'm trying to play at least 1 game from every year that I've bought a game. Uh, and so the next step that I
Okay.
look at is different genres.
Okay.
I try to spread it out so that I'm getting a different flavor with each game that I play. Like I've got tactical role playing games, and then platformers
Mm.
and role playing games like action role playings, and a language game, and uh, there's a variety of stuff. Point and click adventures. Um,
Yeah.
and
My list
then
overall is shaped that way, but I guess the top five I gave you weren't super representative because they're
yeah.
kind of games I just want to plow through. But yeah, I do that too.
And then the third category is I look at how much time it takes to play each game, and I
Yeah.
kind of use a baseline as how many hours was I able to put in last year, and try to balance it so
Yeah.
that it's close to that same amount of time. Uh,
Got it. Got it.
so now I've got a list of like 20 plus games that I'm hoping I can get through this year, and they're sorted alphabetically in this list that I have. It's not like a priority list.
Okay.
So I guess the idea is when I finish playing a game, I'll just look at that entire list, and I'll grab the one that I feel like playing the most.
Okay. Fair enough. So it's not strict ordering.
Yeah. But so when it comes to buying games, the majority of the games I own right now are stuff that I feel are very influential games, and I haven't played, or they're games that I got accidentally through like a humble bundle.
Got it. Okay. I kind of do that for adding games onto my to-do list.
Yeah.
One thing I do, like I actually have games here I don't own. Maybe that differs from you again. Like I guess when I get
Yeah.
to it, I would make an effort to I would either just buy it or if it's like for example Titanfall, I don't have the hardware maybe. I don't know. If it's a Windows game, I'll probably just buy that.
Yeah.
But like if at that point I didn't have the console that went with it, I'd probably make an effort to buy that as well.
Right. Yeah, I've got so I've got like a list somewhere of games I want to buy, but right now I'm just completely. I've got that on isthereanydeal.com,
Right. Yeah.
and
So
so
those aren't on the to play list then.
no, they're not on my to play list. They're on my list that when they drop below a certain price, I'll get notified and then I'll buy them.
Yeah, I do exactly the same thing.
Because in the
Are
meantime,
you?
what were you gonna ask?
I was just gonna say, is that also prioritized, or is that just a giant blob, giant list?
That's just a blob. That's
Yeah.
games that like either there was enough press or enough hype through social media or for whatever reason that I feel like I should get
Got
these
it.
games and play them.
Got
Um,
it. But I mean, is the purchase process something you could literally just automate, or there's not like it's not like this one I'll make an exception for and maybe buy early because it's important to me to get this and play this.
I did that last year and I
Yeah.
ended up buying like a tremendous amount of games. Like I just looked at stuff and uh whenever they were on Steam sales for like 70% off or something, I would just buy them. And I ended up
Okay.
getting like 160 plus games last year. So
Yeah.
it's just like hopelessly uh counteracting whatever plans I get of getting through my backlog.
Got it.
So at this point, it's like I just have stuff on that list and I'm completely ignoring it, and I've marked them down to like unreasonably low prices. And should they get
Right.
down to that, then I'll buy them. But
Got it.
otherwise, I'm really trying to just focus on making use of the money I've already spent.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair.
So yeah, and I guess the fourth priority is when I'm making my to-do list is I try to get games that I am interested in, but I do also try to add the occasional game in there that I don't really know anything about. Like maybe I did get it as part of a humble bundle and I wouldn't have normally bought it, but
Right. So,
I feel like it's worth at least giving it a shot. And you know, if I don't like it, I'm not going to play to completion, but at least I'm going to give it a shot.
cool. Very cool. Yeah, there's a guy, a friend I have here, and we go to like game cons and retro game cons sometimes, and pretty much every time I just go with like this like list of stuff I want to buy and just try and find all of them and walk out of there with like 20 games, and he'll always specifically buy like one game he's really wanted a long time and one game he's never heard of. That's like his
Yeah.
thing. So we always go home and play his game he bought that he's never heard of, and it's always some quirky thing that looked cool or just something, right, like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that works. I don't know. He's had luck. It's been a lot of fun little discoveries.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to kind of just branch out and
Yeah,
get out of your echo chamber. Like, yeah, you know, I do the same at a grocery store. Like every now and then, you know, instead of buying the exact same type of cheddar cheese that I'm used to buying, I'll get a different brand from a different country or something, and you know, it tastes
yeah,
pretty different, and
absolutely.
it's how you develop your tastes. Um,
In my efforts to just kind of generically collect all these older console games, I find that just naturally happens. Like I'll go into a place selling Super Nintendo games and just buy like 15 games or something, and you know, some of them I just know I don't own and I've never heard of, so I just throw them in the pile. Maybe they're cheap,
yeah,
and I do play them, so I get that experience. Not so much with new games, just because I'm hesitant to spend however much, you know, $20+ on something I have no idea about. But
yeah.
yeah,
So I guess I could try to briefly go through my list. It is kind of long, but and it's not sorted by priority. So
yeah. Well,
um,
let's hear it.
so there it is a little bit imbalanced this year because I'm kind of interested in thinking about the game mechanics in like tactical RPGs and stuff
So
or
it's
real-time
weighted.
strategy. So it's kind of
Yeah.
weighted towards that this year, which is not how I've done it in past years. But
Sure.
anyway, so I played through Fire Emblem Fate's Birthright last year. So I'm going to try to get through both Conquest and Revelations this year.
Cool.
The two other halves or thirds of that game.
Mm.
And then I've got one called Frozen Synapse.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's probably on my list somewhere. That looked really cool. I wanted to play it.
do you own it?
I do. Yes.
Okay, because I don't know why, but for some reason there was like a Steam sale, and you got two copies when you bought it. So I have like a spare copy.
Really? Well, let me just double check. I like you have this out of control purchasing problem.
Yeah.
But I'm very certain. Well, I've played it, so I must have either played it at PAX or
Okay.
own it. Yes, I own it.
Okay.
It's downloaded on this system even.
And then, so I've got Hyperlight Drifter, which was a pretty cool looking Kickstarter game that has gotten
Cool.
positive attention.
Cool.
Vagrant Story.
Nice choice. Yeah.
I'd never played that. I remember you
Nice.
and Gerard seemed to like that back in high school, but yeah, I just never got around to trying it.
Yep. That's one of those. There's a lot of games from that era that, looking back, I liked and then I kind of forgot about, and it's like I'd like to rediscover in a way. But yes, that one. Have you played? Never mind. Sorry. Go on.
I played through Influent last year in Japanese, and I got the French version for free this year.
Oh,
So
really?
I'm gonna do that because I'm gonna be learning some French this year. So
Well then. Just if I may interject. What is that? That's literally like a game. It's a language teaching game, right?
it's essentially glorified flashcards.
Okay. With like a story built in.
The story is extremely superficial. The story is you're the inventor of a translating machine and you're trying to confirm that it works. So you'll be given you are in your apartment. It's like a studio apartment, and you just click on items and see what they are in a different language. Like it'll give you the pronunciation and the spelling for it. And you build up a list of 10 of these things, and then you try to do like a time attack mode to where the game will speak the word, and then you have to try to find the object.
Okay.
So it's essentially a flashcard system. With
Cool.
It's only got like 420 words or so in it, but they're all like household objects. So like bathtub, doorknob, shampoo, that sort of thing.
Got it. Okay.
So I got it for free, and I'm going to be learning French. So it's just a tool that will help me get a little bit more familiar with pronunciation and genders of things.
Sure. Cool. Okay.
The next one is Ultima, the first one.
Oh yeah. First one. Noah Calabath, man.
I had honestly never heard of it. I should look into it. But yeah,
I bought the Ultima Collection when I was younger, and it came with the Calabath, so that's how I became aware of it. Honestly, it's like a, I don't know, 3-hour game, 2-hour game.
Yeah.
So consider it.
Well, there's yeah, I can probably get it. Last year I ended up picking up like all of the Ultima games.
Oh yeah.
And like you, I do want to play them all, but I'm gonna start at the beginning. So.
Yeah. Cool.
And then the next one is Lumino City.
Lumino City.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Luminosity, but it's 2 words, Lumino City.
I am not familiar.
Let me double check. Yep. So I don't know a whole lot about this game. It's
Ratings are good.
Yeah, it's got good ratings. It's a puzzle game. It's one that I believe I got as part of a Humble Bundle. And one thing that's really cool about it is artistically, the whole set was like a model that was built in reality, and then everything's been photographed.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can kind of see that from the images here. Yeah.
So artistically, I think it looks really cool. So
Yeah.
I want to give that a shot. And then last year, I'm trying to double check here. So last year I played through Suikoden.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I played through that is because I've been hearing for years that Suikoden 2 is like the best RPG ever.
So you're gonna play that this
So
year.
I'm going to play Suikoden 2.
Okay.
I've got one called Gunpoint.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what that game is. I know it's an indie game.
Yeah.
It's got a 10 out of 10 on Steam. So that's one of those
Okay.
games that, again, I don't know what it is. I'll just try to brush through the last ones here quickly. Leisure Suit Larry.
Like
Leisure-
number 1?
No, I actually played the first one a few years ago. I bought like all of them. Uh,
Like you finished the first one?
yeah, I finished the first one. Leisure Suit Larry. This one is called Looking for Love. So
Can I can I interject very quickly with a
yep.
brief story? When I was geez, I don't even know, like 7 or 8 or younger even. Maybe it was 7, 8. We inherited my grandfather's computer. He
Yeah.
was still alive at the time, but he just didn't want it. And he had Leisure Suit Larry, and this was like his naughty game he had or something. I don't know. So of course, I just wanted to play this, but it had at the start it was like, to make sure you're an adult, we're gonna ask you all these
Yeah, yeah,
questions.
yeah.
And it was like, this is the original like Atari ST from the late 80s kind of thing. And all the questions were questions that were like, who's the president of the United States? Marlon Brando is an actor, a zookeeper, a scientist.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
of course, I would just click until it would tell you after each question if you were right or not. So I would
Yeah.
just memorize all the answers, even though I didn't know these people.
Yeah.
And I could get into the game quite easily. Never got very far, but
Yeah. Yeah, I beat the first one the year that I bought all these, and so I guess this is the second one.
mm,
So that's one of my mixing up
that's
the
funny.
gameplay styles. It's a old school Sierra adventure game. I really liked those old Sierra games
Cool.
where you have to like type in the commands.
Hmm.
Um,
I liked what was it? Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis.
I never played that one.
Oh, really? It's fun. It's I think it's LucasArts, I want to say, I think. I mean, it would make sense. It's just kind of this standalone Indiana Jones adventure, unrelated to the. It doesn't try and be a tie-in with the movies. It's more like, here's the character. He's on his own new quest now. And it was fun. They had like real voice. It wasn't actually Harrison Ford or anything, but
Yeah,
point and click, classic LucasArtsy stuff. Lots of fun.
yeah. Rocketbirds, which was on my to-do list for last year, and I didn't get around to it, so I added that
Mm,
back on this year. Um,
cool.
Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Is that
Uh,
the remake or the very first one?
the Let me check. I bought that just before I went to Australia, I believe.
Have you played Deus Ex?
No, I haven't played a single one of
So many
them.
people worship this game. I stopped at Ultima. Deus Ex is next on my list.
Nice.
It's the
Um,
seventh.
this one was 2011 it came out.
Right.
So I think this was like the one that like kind of made it quite mainstream, and like
Mm,
a lot of people were like excited because it's an action game, but you could actually play through it with stealth and like not kill anyone. And
right. Yeah.
so that's on my list. Machinarium, which is a point and click adventure game.
Okay.
Uh, Altered Beast.
Altered Beast.
Yep.
Really.
Yep. And then I'm interested. I'm interested in playing Fantasy Star, but I
Ooh, that first one is tough.
yeah, I keep hearing that, and I remember really not liking Dragon Quest, the first one. So
Hmm.
I'm actually skipping straight to Fantasy Star 4, even though I haven't played any of the others.
That's fair. That's fair. I recently bought the Fantasy Star Collection, and yet I might do the same at some point. Fantasy Star, the original one, is somewhere on my list here, like way, 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 way down. I think I'd started it and I just couldn't. It was so cutesy, and lots of things about it
Yeah.
turned me off.
So yeah, that's every game that's on my list that I hadn't for this year that I hadn't already mentioned earlier, like Shining Force, Destiny of an Emperor, and I'm currently playing Mighty Number 9 and Dragon Age Origins.
Very cool.
And
Very cool.
I won't bother going through the list, but I actually do have a whole entire other list that's
Of
just
200 games.
no, it's like another 20 games or so, and they're all games that are less than 20 hours and games that I think my wife would enjoy.
I was about to bring that up. I remember you'd mentioned something like that.
Yeah, so that's a whole list of games where if we manage to get through whatever game that we're playing, that's kind of like a pool that she can choose from.
Right. Hadn't you finished Scapegoat or Scapegoat 2
Yep,
or
we played
whichever one you were
Escapegoat 2, and we're playing Super Mario USA right now.
playing? Nice, nice. How's that going?
I mean, we haven't played it in like 3 weeks, but
Yeah. Slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The advantage of the mini Famicom is it has save states, so we can actually
Cheat.
come back to it instead of starting right at the beginning.
Right. Right. Very cool.
Anyway,
All
that's
right then.
so that's my plan for the years to get through all those.
Well, I at least hope to get through the ones I described to you. I mean, I have actually managed to maintain approximately an hour a day of gaming, which
Yeah.
is it probably already puts me above all the game playing I did last year, in all honesty,
Yeah.
heading into February here. So hoping to keep that up. And I mean, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is a huge time suck and could easily eat like a third of all my game hours for the year by the sounds of it. But still hoping to get through at least most of what I said and hopefully beyond that for
Nice.
2017. Of course, we have a baby on the way, so I don't know what's going if that's
public.
realistic. We'll see.
Yeah, that's good luck with that, having spare time once that arrives.
Hey, I slept in a bit, but I'm getting up ridiculously early to do podcasts. So I can make some game time here and there somehow.
Oh, yeah, you'll still be getting up ridiculously early when you've got a newborn.
Without the games, right?
Unless you've got parental amnesia and have forgotten that whole stage.
No. I'm honestly, most people, I've very much heard of that, but I'm very much like terrified right now with what's going to happen. Like I think about what my life is going to be like in like July, and I'm kind of start to shake a little.
Yeah.
For real.
All right.
There's no part of it was to, I mean, it was like, if we're going to have another kid, let's do it now. And, you know, I don't want to like be like this like 37-year-old or something and be like, oh my God, what have I done to myself?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's the thing that's brutal is playing like Vagrant Story or Dragon Age or any of these things right now. It's like they're all. I've got a good chunk of games here that are over 20 hours, and that means it's going to be hard for me to find the time to play those.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to both of us here for 2017.
All right. Well, we may as well wrap it up and get a move on with our day.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, always good chatting about games, and let's kind of keep tabs on how we progress this year.
For realsies.